Welcome back to The Explainer. So, picture an organization that promises absolute perfection, eternal bliss. But what happens when the people on the front lines, the actual workers, just decide to go on strike? When the entire system starts to collapse, and the CEO flat out admits, yeah, it's all broken? Well, today, we're going to dive right into a management crisis of, you could say, biblical proportions, because it's happening in heaven. So first, let's just get this sales pitch, right? This isn't just some afterlife. Think of it more like a massive, all-inclusive socialist resort. It's this kingdom set up by good God's Son, and it's got everything. Endless mansions, sparkling fountains, a sky that's always in the state of a perfect, beautiful sunset. And for the folks living there, the ones they call believers, well, it's just one long, eternal vacation where every single thing you could possibly want is taken care of for you. But, yeah, you guessed it. Behind the perfect facade, there is some serious trouble brewing in paradise. And this quote right here from the Angelic Union, well, it really says it all, doesn't it? We are tired of dog poop patrol. I mean, wow, they're threatening to go on strike. So the bottom line is, this perfect retirement community, it's on the brink of a massive labor dispute. The angelic staff is totally overworked, completely burnt out, and they are demanding big changes. Okay, so here's how we're going to tackle this whole celestial crisis today. First up, we'll take a quick tour of this heavenly resort and see what life is really like. Then we'll jump straight into the main event, the Angelic Union strike. After that, we'll zoom out and see how this is just a tiny piece of a much bigger system-wide collapse. Then we'll look at some pretty wild proposals for reform, and we'll wrap it all up by asking the biggest question of them all. Is this a management problem, or was the whole system flawed right from the start? All right, let's dive into our first section. We're going to take a closer look at this heavenly resort. So as we said, this whole place is run by good God, and it's set up to be this kind of all-inclusive socialist paradise, but only for those who are called believers.
So let's really look at what life is like in this kingdom. I mean, the source material literally calls the residents lazy souls who feel like they're owed absolutely everything. Think about it. They have no jobs, they don't contribute anything at all. According to God, his son just insists on taking on everybody's debts, which has created this culture of eternal vacation. So you gotta ask, who's actually doing all the work? Well, it's an angelic staff, and they're doing everything, from housekeeping and fixing things to literally mediating arguments.
And that leads us perfectly into our next section, the Angelic Union going on strike. Because let's be honest, when you have a situation with a totally idle ownership class on one side and a completely overworked labor force on the other, conflict isn't just likely, it's pretty much guaranteed.
Okay, so this is where we get to the heart of the disagreement. It's a real divine dispute. On one side, you've got the angels, and they're saying, hey, these souls need to get jobs and start being self-sufficient. They're getting super frustrated because while they're stuck doing celestial housekeeping, there's a major staff shortage back on Earth, and that's letting the devils win. But on the other side, good God's position is basically tough. This is what you were made for. Angels were made to serve mankind. It's a total classic standoff. So what's the Angelic Union's big solution? Honestly, it's pretty radical. They literally tell good God, send them back to Earth for more training. I mean, can you imagine? They basically see the residents as unskilled or, maybe more accurately, unwilling labor. And they think these souls need to go back for some remedial ed. The whole idea completely flips the script. It suggests heaven isn't a one-and-done final reward, but a place you can actually get kicked out of if you don't make the grade. Okay, so moving on. This is where we see that the labor dispute is really just the tip of the iceberg. It's a symptom of a much, much bigger problem. The entire cosmic system is completely overloaded, and the infrastructure, well, it's failing on literally every single level. I mean, just try to wrap your head around this number. Good God says he needs 1 million replicas of himself just to listen to all the daily prayer requests coming in. And those are all supposed to be recorded and reported by the angels. But remember that labor dispute? Well, because of it, the workload is so insane that the angels are filing fewer reports, and the ones they do file are shorter. The whole system is strained to the breaking point. It's actually starting to shut down. And it's not just prayers. The judicial system is just as buried. Get this. Every single second, 2 souls die and need a preliminary judgment. Every second. That creates this constant, never-ending flood of new cases. And since there's a shortage of judges, the actual final judgment trials, they're booked out for, well, a very, very long time. We're talking about a celestial backlog of absolutely epic proportions. And this is where it goes from just being overloaded to a full-blown crisis of justice. Because good God himself admits that his judges, who, by the way, are all just duplicates of him, make their eternal life or death or afterlife decisions based on two things: a daily quota and, you won't believe this, their current mood. Just let that sink in. Your eternity could literally depend on whether or not the judge stubbed his toe that morning.
And this quote, this might be the darkest part of the whole system. Good God just flat out says that when he's creating unique souls, sometimes there are unsuccessful soul prototypes, failed experiments. And what happens to them? They're just cussed out. He calls them miserable, worthless beasts. There's no second chance, no rehabilitation program, just disposal. So you see, this isn't just a management problem anymore. This is a deeply, deeply troubling ethical flaw right at the core of the creation process itself.
So, okay, the system is obviously completely broken. And that brings us to our next section, because a new character enters the picture. His name is Divine Father, and he comes in with a plan for a complete and total overhaul, a brand new management philosophy. And you can really see the two different visions for heaven laid out side by side here. On the one hand, you have good God's kingdom, basically open borders for anyone who calls themselves a believer, which, as we've seen, it leads to a lot of lazy vacationers. On the other hand, you have Divine Father's proposal, which is way more merit-based. He's saying, let's be more selective, let's do a mass culling of the unproductive souls, and most importantly, let's give everyone a 5-year probationary period. And if you don't perform, you get sent right back to Earth for more practice. So let's just break down his 3-point plan real quick. First, a mass culling. Get rid of the lazy souls who just refuse to work. Second, a probationary period. Every single new soul gets a 5-year trial to prove they belong there. And third, if you don't perform, you go back to Earth for more training. It's a whole new paradigm, right? A system built on continuous development, not just a one-time ticket through the pearly gates.
Which brings us to our final, and maybe most important, section. So far, we've looked at all the symptoms, the strike, the overload, and we've even looked at a potential cure. But what if the problem is much, much deeper than that? What if this has nothing to do with managing souls after they arrive, and everything to do with how they're made in the first place? And that leads us to this final, absolutely crucial question, which was actually posed by a human observer in the story named Rev. It completely reframes the entire debate, because instead of just trying to figure out how to fix the broken-down resort, or the swamped legal system, or deal with the lazy residents, it asks a much better question. Is there anything you can do to improve the initial quality of the new souls you create? Can you increase the long-term success rate from the get-go? See how that shifts everything? It's not about soul management anymore. It's about soul manufacturing. And that's the thought I want to leave you with. Is this whole crisis in heaven really the fault of a bad manager? Or is it just the unavoidable result of a deeply flawed design?